What I love more about my city is the people. We have splendid people with a lot of heart, and that's why we are one of the most largest and important cities in the world. We are a mega city. We attend daily 23 millions of metropolitan trips in our roads, and that's why we have a big challenge in front of us. Not just doing and planning, also seeing us as one of the major cities in the planet. I mean, we have to compare Mexico City with the Asian cities. It doesn't matter how much we love the European plans and also the United States ones, with the New York City example as in sustainable mobility. But we have to think about Beijing, Nueva Delhi. This is the kind of size of Mexico City. So I think that those two reasons are the main reasons for me to love it. The people and also the challenge of the size. Well, I have been working in sustainable mobility the last 7 years. I started as a congresswoman in Mexico City's local congress. I was a list party, and that's why I just started my work over there. When I began my career, my political career in the local assembly, I started to work with the civil society sector, just to try to understand the main problems that they see from their own trench. And maybe I am a romantic person, so I believe in the power of the people, in the interest of the community agenda, and it was very important for me to start this conversation with them. So we create this new proposal of the mobility law, and we started to push from there. And it was a very collaborative effort, a very horizontal one, where the people, the activist people, the civil society, the citizens, the neighbors, the industry, everybody starts to work on it. We implemented a technical board, and since that technical board, we started to get the proposal done. So that's part of the story of the mobility movement in Mexico City, and we are very proud of it, because we're not just creating a new mobility model, we are creating a new way to implement urban governance, and in Mexico City it is important. Yeah, well, the new mobility law is a very disruptive one, because we create a change in the paradigm of the city. I mean, we are a car-oriented city, as you may know, and in order to stop the allocation of the budget just into car infrastructure, it was necessary to create a frame law who can support and who can be engaged with the new sustainable infrastructure, the green one, the one that we need. So the four main pillars of this mobility law is, the first one, we create the new mobility right. We understand the mobility as a social right, an obligation, because of that, of the government to invest in this kind of infrastructure for everybody. So this is one of the main pillars. We understand that as a social right, and because of that, the government has the obligation to invest on it. The second pillar is, we also understand the public transport system as the core of all the sustainable ecosystem of the city. So what we have to do right now is to invest the biggest piece of the budget on the public transport systems, not just in order to integrate them, also to expand them and to change what we have to change in order to get a more cleaner vehicles. So this is huge, because the budget 5 years ago had been spending the 73% in the great infrastructure for cars. So that's why it's very important, the change of the paradigm in the budget allocation. The third pillar is the recognition of the walking and cycling as mobility systems, as two main parts of the mobility ecosystem, not just to have some sport in the morning or to have a recreational walk or cycling. Is a mobility system, and because of that they need infrastructure, they need regulation in order to protect their vulnerability, and that's why the road safety is important for us in this agenda, because we understand that everybody has the right to get into their destinations. It doesn't matter the options that they choose to get into it. So if that option is a vulnerable one, as the cycling, walking, or the using of the public transport system, we have the obligation as a government to make sure that they are going to get into destinations alive and without a lesion. So that's very important too. And the fourth one, I think that this is also one of our biggest challenges, but also our biggest victories. We create a citizen council in order to start taking decisions together. Because when we were talking and working in the new mobility law, as I said, we create this board. At that time, it was a non-official one, but it was a very formal roundtable with everybody on board talking about what we do need. So because of this very successful exercise that allowed us to have the new mobility law, we decided to put it on the law. So this council, Citizen One, it is directly involved with the decision-making process of the city, and we also create public policy together. We evaluate all the programs in that discussions, and also they have the opportunity to allocate the budget. So I think it is part of the change, and yeah, we are just starting with it, but yeah, it's part of our advances. When we are thinking about a new mobility model, we have to be sure that we are going to invest our money not just in the public transport systems, also in the environment. When we are talking about a new mobility ecosystem, we have to think in all the options that the people can choose in order to get into their destinations. So we are talking about, of course, walking, and the people who walk need sidewalks and safe intersections, safe crossroads. Also, the people who choose a bike, they need proper sight lanes and proper infrastructure for their bikes in order to make it easier and safer. Also, the people who use public transport system, we understand in Mexico City that 60%, at least the 60% of the population are users of the public transport system. So that's why it is also a matter of justice to invest in them. So in order to do that, we have to create specific lines, corridors to these public transport systems, and part of the investment has to be in that part of the agenda. Also, if we're talking about mobility, we understand that people have the right to choose a car, but if they do that, it has to be shared, mainly. Of course, it has to be also more rational. The use of a car has to be more rational. So we have to understand as car users that if we choose to use a car, it's going to cost more, because all these externalities of the car using, most of the times are paid by government. So right now we're just trying to allocate that cost into the personal behavior, and in order to get the government to spend the money in the public transport systems for everybody. So it's going to be maybe expensive here if you choose that, but also it is part of the ecosystem, so the roads has to be also safe and fine. So that's why when we're talking about mobility, the public space is that important, because each kind of option deserves their own space. And in Mexico City, we call it the complete street. This complete street has all these elements, and the road safety and the public security are two very important components. So when we're talking about to to keep the streets for the people, we mean it. We mean that we need them for everybody, not just for the 20% of the population who use a car. So with the Metrobus system, when we invest in 1 kilometer of this public transport system, we are also investing in 1 kilometer of a complete street. So each time we are growing the system, we are also growing all the ecosystem, because we are taking care about the trips from door to door. We are not a traditional person in politics. When you are working in public transport and in urban mobility, you have to understand that this is a very disruptive agenda. So you have to be brave, you have to be bold, you have to be very smart in order to get the right arguments to start the conversations, and also to create a very collaborative environment in order to achieve your goals. I think that the people who started to work the green agenda like 20 years ago, they also understand that they need each other, that it is not about a personal battle. So in my personal opinion, we have three special components in order to achieve the goals. The first one is to be bold and brave. The second one is to be surrounded by experts and by activists and people who really love and care about this agenda. And the number three is to be patient, because it is a disruptive agenda. It is not going to happen fast or quick, but it depends about your abilities, the results that you're going to achieve. So in Mexico City, we have been working this since 5 years ago. We're very proud of it, and I also say we, because I am not alone, I am not by myself. I work with everybody, and everybody knows also that they can count with me in these battles. So I think it's part of the challenge, but also of our big advantage in Mexico City in this agenda.